Revelation chapter 18. After these things I noticed another messenger descending from heaven, who had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his esteem. Then he yelled out with a strong voice, saying, "She is fallen, the great Babylon is fallen. She has become a place for the home of demons, a jail for every unclean spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hateful bird, because all the nations have drunk from the wine of the rage caused by her non-marital sexual intercourse, and the kings of the earth have joined her in her non-marital sexual intercourse, and the merchants of the earth have become rich from her power to indulge herself." Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, "You must come out of her, my people, so that you might not be sharers with her in her wrongdoings, and so that you might not notice any of her calamities, because her wrongdoings have been piled up to heaven, and Almighty has remembered the injuries that she has done. You must pay her back just like she has paid, and you must give her double according to her works. In the cup that she has blended for others, you must blend double for her. However much she has esteemed and indulged herself, you must give her that much torture and mourning. For she is saying in her heart, 'I am sitting as a queen, and I am not a widow, and I shall not by any means see any mourning.' For this reason, in one day, her calamities will arrive, death, mourning, and famine. Then she will be burned up with fire, because the Master Almighty, who has judged her, is strong. Then the kings of the earth, who have joined her in non-marital sexual intercourse, and indulged themselves, will weep and grieve over her when they observe the smoke of her fiery ordeal. They will stand a distance away for fear of her torture, saying, 'What a terrible time! What a terrible time for the great city, for Babylon, the strong city! In 1 hour your judgment has come!' In addition, the merchants of the earth are going to weep and mourn over her, for no one is going to buy their loads any longer. Loads of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen cloth, colored cloth, silk cloth, and purplish red cloth. Also, all kinds of scented woods, all kinds of ivory items, and all kinds of items made from the most valuable wood, bronze, iron, and marble. Also, cinnamon, spice, incense, aromatic herb oil, frankincense, wine, olive oil, flour, grain, beasts, and sheep. Also loads of horses, coaches, and bodies, or slaves, and also human sentient beings. The ripe fruit of your sentient being's desire has passed away from you, and everything that you had that was superb and dazzling has been destroyed, and nobody under any circumstances will find them. The merchants of these things, who became rich by means of her, will stand a distance away for fear of her torture, weeping and mourning, saying, 'What a terrible time! What a terrible time for the great city! She who was clothed in fine linen, colored cloth, and purplish red cloth, and glittered with gold, precious stones, and pearls. In 1 hour, so many riches have been made into waste.' Now every ship's captain, and everyone who travels by the sea, both the sailors and all those who make their trade by the sea, stood a distance away, and kept yelling out as they observed the smoke of her fiery ordeal, saying, 'What city was like this great city?' Then they threw dirt on their heads, and kept yelling out, weeping and mourning, saying, "What a terrible time! What a terrible time for the great city, by which all who had ships on the sea became rich from her wealth. In 1 hour she has been made into a waste." You must be having a good time over her, heaven, and you pure ones, you dispatched envoys, and you prophets, because Almighty has judged her by passing your sentence upon her. Then one strong messenger lifted up a stone like a large millstone, and threw it into the sea, saying, "This is how Babylon the great city will be hurled down, and shall never again be found." Now the sound of harp singers, entertainers, flutists, and trumpeters shall never again be heard in you. Every craftsman of every craft shall never again be found in you. The sound of a millstone, or the daily routines and the preparation of food, shall never again be heard in you. The light of a lamp shall never again appear in you, and the voice of the bridegroom and bride shall never again be heard in you, because your merchants were the important people of the earth. Because of your use of magic potions, all the nations were led astray. Now in her was found the blood of the prophets, of the pure ones, and of all who have been slaughtered upon the earth. Revelation chapter 19. After these things I heard something like the loud voices of a great crowd in heaven, saying, "Hallelujah! Praise you, Almighty! Salvation and esteem and power belong to our Almighty, because His judgments are true and just." Musical composition 19, verse 9. Because He has judged the great woman who had non-marital sexual intercourse, who kept causing the decay of the earth with her non-marital sexual intercourse, and He has gotten justice for the blood of His slaves, spilled by her hand. Deuteronomy 32, verse 43. Then a second time they declared, "Hallelujah! Praise you, Almighty! Her smoke is ascending for the remaining ages, the present age and the last age of the ages." Then the 24 older ones and the 4 animals, or the cherubs, fell down and worshipped Almighty, who was sitting on the throne, saying, "It is true. Hallelujah. Praise you, Almighty." Now a voice came out from the throne, saying, "You must be continually praising our Almighty, all you who are His slaves, you who are continually having deep respect for Him, both the small and the great." Musical composition 135, verses 1 through 2. Then I heard something like the voices of a great crowd, and something like the sound of many waters, and something like the sound of strong peals of thunder, saying, "Hallelujah! Praise you, Almighty! For the Master our Almighty, the Almighty, has begun to reign. Let's be rejoicing and celebrating, and give esteem to Him, because the wedding of the young Lamb has come, and His bride has made herself ready. Now it has been granted to her to clothe herself in fine linen that is clean and shining, for the fine linen is the just actions of the pure ones." Then He said to me, "You must write this: Happy are those who have been called, or invited, to the young Lamb's wedding supper, the harvest feast of the last age, Pentecost, the 50th day festival." Then He said to me, "These are the true words of Almighty." Then I fell down in front of His feet to worship Him. But He said to me, "No! You must see that I am a fellow slave with you, and your brothers and sisters, who are continually giving their testimony about Yesus. You must worship Almighty, For testimony about Jesus is what inspires all prophecy. Then I noticed heaven open, and noticed a white horse, and the one who is sitting upon it is called Trustworthy and True. And in accordance with what is right and just, he is judging and doing battle. Now his eyes were like flames of fire. Revelation 1 verse 14. And on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written on him that no one was aware of except himself. Now he was clothed in an outer garment that had been dipped in blood, and his name is called Almighty's Word. Now the armies that are in heaven, who had on clothing of fine linen, white and clean, were following him on white horses. Now out of his mouth came a sharp blade, so that with it he might strike the nations, and he will shepherd them with an iron staff. And he is going to tread the wine-treading trough of the angry rage of Almighty, the Almighty. Now on his outer garment and on his thigh he had a name written, King of Kings and Master of Masters. Then I noticed a messenger standing in the sun, and he yelled out with a loud voice, saying to all the predatory birds that were flying in the middle of the sky, You must come, you must gather together for Almighty's great supper, to eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of colonels, the flesh of the strong, the flesh of horses, and those who sit upon them, and the flesh of all kinds of people, both free people and slaves, both small and great. Then I noticed the wild beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies, gathered together to do battle against the one who was sitting upon the horse, and against his army. Now the wild beast was arrested, and with it the false prophet who did the signs in its sight, by which he led astray those who had got the emblem of the wild beast, and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur, to be destroyed in the second death. But the rest were killed with the blade that came out of the mouth of the one who was sitting on the horse, and all the predatory birds were satisfied with their flesh. Revelation chapter 20. Then I noticed a messenger descending from heaven, who had the key to the deep pit, Tartarus, the dungeon for demons. Luke 8 verse 31, 1 Peter 3 verse 19, 2 Peter 2 verse 4, and Jude 6. And a large chain in his hand. Now he took hold of the dragon, the ancient snake, who is the adversary, and Satan, the adversary, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the deep pit, Tartarus, locked it, and sealed it over him, so that he shouldn't lead the nations astray any longer, until the 1,000 years were completed. After these things he has to be released for a little while. Then I noticed thrones, and the ones who sat on them, and judgment was given to them. Then I noticed the sentient beings of those who had been executed because of their testimony about Jesus, and because of Almighty's Word, even those who hadn't worshipped the wild beast or its image, hadn't gotten its emblem on their foreheads and on their hands, and had lived and reigned with the Anointed One for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead didn't live until the 1,000 years were completed. This is the first resurrection. Philippians 3 verses 7 through 16. 1 Corinthians 13 verses 8 through 13. Happy and pure is the person who has a part in the first resurrection. The second death, Revelation 20 verses 14 through 15, has no authority over them. Rather, they will be priests for Almighty and for the Anointed One, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. Now when the 1,000 years are completed, Satan, the adversary, will be released out of his jail, and will come out to lead astray the nations that are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, two satanic princes, Ezekiel 38 through 39, to gather them together for battle, their number being like the sand of the sea. Now they went up over the width of the earth and surrounded and protected camp of the pure ones and the dearly loved city, and fire descended from heaven and devoured them. Then the adversary, who had led them astray, was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, to be destroyed in the second death, where the wild beast and the false prophet were also thrown. And they will be tortured day and night for the remaining ages of the ages, the present age and the last age, until the present heaven and earth are destroyed. Revelation 21 verse 1. Then I noticed a great white throne, and the one who was sitting upon it, from whose face the earth and heaven ran away, and no place was found for them. Then I noticed the dead, both the great and the small, standing before the throne, and the scrolls were opened. And another scroll was opened, which is the scroll of life. And the dead were judged based on the things that had been written in the scrolls, according to their works. Now the sea gave up the dead, who were in it, and death and the grave gave up the dead who were in them. And each one of them was judged according to their works. Then death and the grave were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire, which is also symbolized by Gehenna, Jerusalem's burning trash dump, Luke 12, verse 5. Now whoever's name wasn't found written in the scroll of life was thrown into the lake of fire, to be destroyed in the second death. Revelation chapter 21. Then I noticed a new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. Then I noticed the pure city, the new Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from Almighty, made ready like a bride, decorated for her husband. Then I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Notice, Almighty's tent is with humans, and he will be in the tent with them, and they will be his peoples. Many different kinds of people from different nations and times. And Almighty himself will be with them, and he will brush away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death. There will be no more mourning, yelling, or misery, because the former things have passed away. Now the one who was sitting on the throne said, Notice, I am making everything new. Then he said, You must write this, because these words are trustworthy and true. Then he said to me, It has occurred. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the originator and the completer. To whomever is thirsty I will freely give water from the spring of the water of life. Whoever is conquering will inherit a share of this, and I will be his Almighty, and he will be my son, meaning, be like him. Yet those who were cowards, those who were unbelievers, those who were abhorrent ones, those who were murderers, those who were having non-marital sexual intercourse, those who were involved with magic potions, those who were idol worshippers, and all those who were liars, their part is destruction in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death, and also symbolized by Gehenna, Jerusalem's burning trash dump. Luke 12, verse 5. Then one of the 7 messengers, who had the 7 bowls that were loaded with the last 7 calamities, came and spoke with me, saying, "You must come on. I will show you the bride, the wife of the young Lamb." So he carried me away in my spirit to a huge and high mountain, and showed me the pure city, Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from Almighty. And she had the esteem of Almighty. Her light was like most precious stone, like a crystal clear diamond. She had a huge and high wall that had 12 entryways, and at the entryways were 12 messengers, and names were inscribed on the entryways, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. There were 3 entryways on the east, 3 entryways on the north, 3 entryways on the south, and 3 entryways on the west. Now the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the 12 names of the 12 envoys dispatched by the young Lamb. Now the one who was speaking with me had a golden measuring rod to measure the city, her entryways, and her wall. Now the city was laid out square, with a length equal to her width. Then he measured the city with the measuring rod and found it to be 12,000 stadium lengths, or 1,380 miles. Her length and width and height were equal. Then he measured her wall and found it to be 144 cubit lengths, or 216 feet, measuring with human measurements, which is what the messenger was using. Now the building material in her wall was diamonds, and the city was clean gold, like clear glass. The foundations of the wall of the city were decorated with every precious stone. The first foundation diamond, the second sky blue sapphire, the third bluish-white quartz, the fourth green emerald, the fifth light-veined red onyx, the sixth red meat-colored quartz, the seventh gold topaz, the eighth blue-green emerald, the ninth yellow-green sapphire, the 10th golden-green quartz, the 11th bluish-violet sapphire, the 12th deep red garnet. Now the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was made of one pearl. Now the city square was clean gold, like transparent glass. Now I didn't notice a temple in her, since the Master Almighty, the Almighty, and the young Lamb are her temple. Now the city had no need of the sun or of the moon to appear for her, since the esteem of Almighty has illuminated her, and the young Lamb is her lamp. Now the nations will walk by means of her light, and the kings of the earth are going to bring their esteem into her. Now her gates shall under no circumstances be locked during the day, since there will be no night there. Now they will bring the esteem and the honor of the nations into her. But under no circumstances shall anything contaminated, or anyone who is doing an abhorrent thing or telling a lie, enter into her, but only those whose names have been written in the young Lamb's scroll of life. Revelation chapter 22. Then he showed me a river of the water of life, shining like a crystal, coming from the throne of Almighty and of the young Lamb, in the center of the city square, and across to each side of the river was the log of life, formerly the tree of life, Genesis 2, verse 9, and 3, verse 22. producing 12 kinds of fruit, giving out a different fruit each month. And the log's leaves were for attending to the health of the nations. Now no cursed thing will exist any longer. And the throne of Almighty and of the young Lamb will be in the city, and his slaves will offer divine service to him. And they will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. Now there will be no night any longer, and they aren't going to have any need for lamplight and sunlight, because the Master Almighty will put light on them, and they will reign for the remaining ages of the ages. Next he said to me, "These words are trustworthy and true. Now the Master, the Almighty of the spirits of the prophets, has dispatched his messenger to show to his slaves what has to occur within a short time. Now notice, I'm going to come quickly. Happy is the person who is continually keeping the words of the prophecy contained in this scroll. Now I, John, am the person who heard and observed these things. Now when I had heard and observed them, I fell down to worship in front of the feet of the messenger who was showing me these things. But he said to me, 'No, you must see that I am a fellow slave with you, your brothers, the prophets, and those who are continually keeping the words contained in this scroll. You must worship Almighty.' Then he said to me, 'You must not seal up the words of the prophecy contained in this scroll, for the time period is near. Whoever is an injurer must still do injury, and whoever is filthy must still make himself filthy, and whoever is just and right must still do what is just and right, and whoever is pure must still keep himself pure. Notice, I am going to come quickly, and the wages that I will give are with me, to pay each one just as his work has been. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the originator and completer. Happy are those who are rinsing their long robes, so that they might have a right to the log of life, formerly the tree of life." Genesis 2, verse 9, and 3, verse 22. "And might enter by the entryways into the city. Outside are those who were wild dogs, those who were involved with magic potions, those who were having non-marital sexual intercourse, those who were murderers, those who were idol worshippers, and everyone who was fond of lies and fabricated them. I, Yesus, have sent my messenger to testify about these things to you in the groups of called ones. I am the root and the descendant of David, the shining morning star. Now the Spirit and the bride are saying, 'Come, Yesus.' In addition, whoever is hearing must say, 'Come, Yesus.' Now whoever is thirsty must come. Whoever wants to must take the water of life freely. I am testifying to everyone who is hearing the words of the prophecy contained in this scroll. Whoever adds something to them, Almighty will add to him the calamities that have been written about in this scroll. And whoever subtracts something from the words contained in this scroll of prophecy, Almighty will subtract from him his part in the log of life, formerly the tree of life, Genesis 2, verse 9, and 3, verse 22, and his part in the pure city, which have been written about in this scroll. The one who is testifying to these things is saying, 'Yes, I am going to come quickly.' Let it be true. Come, Master Jesus. May the favor of the Master Jesus be with all of you.